Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. Just to give you a warning in advance, I'm actually doing this in the garden today with the kids. Lovely day here in London. It's going to be some background noise. I'm not being paid to do this, it's a free service, so if you're not happy then, well, sorry, but best I can do. I'm probably not going to get another opportunity to do it this week. I'm going to be real busy at work, so just going to nail it out now, but there's going to be some interference. Just to do a recap on last week, pre-bets came in again. We're now 11-1 on UFC events in 2019 for pre-betting, so I'm really happy with the success we've had so far. We had half a unit on Rafael Fiziev, which I can't say I regret the bet. I got him at about plus 130, but it definitely looks a little bit deer in the headlights. But it's a bit of a square double that I did, which was the main event ending inside the distance and Evelev winning, which both came in very easily. But I was very confident in it, and it was a really poor betting card, so I was just happy to profit. I was pretty confident in that bet, and even though the return wasn't the best, it still ensured another profitable night on pre-bet. So 11-1, as I said, on UFC events in 2019. Really happy with that success. We had an amazing night on live bet as well. I tipped 5 live bets throughout the evening. A couple were boxing, 3 I think were UFC. Every single live bet I tipped hit. So a really successful night on live betting, particularly with Roxanne Modafferi, who I tipped at plus 225 at the end of round 1. So members won about 6 units overall. So if you have been with Pro MMA betting since the start of the year, if you're a £100 or $100 per unit better, you'd now be up £6,500 or dollars with our service, which I think is a great turnaround considering we're only a quarter of the way through. So aiming for that 20k mark for 100 euros, dollars or pounds bettors for the year. We're well on course for that at the moment, so hopefully we can hit that. Please hit the subscribe button on here. Give us a follow on Twitter at Pro MMA Betting, and the website prommmabetting.com. All the packages are on there with regards to the subscription service for pre-betting and live betting. The live betting service is offered on Discord. We do it via audio, but also type the tips out as well. Some people have difficulty hearing or they can't tune in, so we offer it both ways, but it is better if you can tune in and listen audio wise, because then you can hit the bet as soon as I suggest it, because as it's live betting the odds do change pretty quick, so it's better if you can tune in for the audio. But yeah, we're having a great year, so the service is very cheap compared to the results we're getting. You're easily going to make your money back, so please have a look on the website and have a look at the subscription packages. Any questions, shoot me an email, happy to get back to you. But let's start looking at this card for this Saturday, which is much better for betting than the St. Petersburg card, which, as I probably said, is one of the most difficult cards I can remember for betting because of the unknown. So many new fighters are on there. This card, a lot more established fighters. We can really get a better insight and break the fights down more thoroughly, and I'm definitely more confident with my bets this week, and hopefully that's going to move us to 12-1 for pre-betting, and hopefully we'll have another good night on live betting. So let's move forward and start looking at the card. Right, I'm going to start with the Gilbert Burns Mike Davis fight. I'm not officially sure if that is the first fight of the evening, but I'm just going to roll with that. It's only just been announced. Mike Davis is a late notice replacement for, I can't remember the name of the chap that was meant to be fighting, but he's been in the UFC previously. I think Eric Wisely. I remember he got calf sliced by Charles Oliveira. Not really sure why the UFC were bringing him back. I remember looking at his record and I think he'd won like 8 or 9 fights in a row, but I don't think they was against anyone that you'd know, with no name recognition, so it was a really odd fight. But Mike Davis is stepping in on short notice, which is a much better fight for me. We saw Mike Davis on Dana White Contender Series. He fought Sadiq Youssef. Sadiq beat him down over 3 rounds, but Mike definitely showed that striking he's very capable. Looks like a very solid striker. This is Gilbert Burns' fight though. It's short notice for Mike. Gilbert just needs to fight smart. The problem we've had with him recently is seems to think he's a K1 striker now, which is a worry. I like backing people who I know are going to fight smart. Everlev, weekend just gone, prime example. Fought exactly to his strengths, didn't mess around on the feet, just went for the takedowns. And when I'm betting someone, I want them to fight smart, and I don't trust Gilbert Burns to fight smart. Now the line isn't showing on best fight odds yet, but one of my American pals informed me that the line opened at minus 300 Burns. I think that's probably going to get steeper. I can imagine people parlaying Gilbert Burns, and he should win this fight, but I'm not 100% sold on his fight IQ. So I won't be playing him at a juice line, which is what you're going to get. Like I said, I think it's going to end up being worse than minus 300, but I can't play him here. I think he'll win. I think he can take Mike Davis down and use his world-class jiu-jitsu skills to get a submission victory. But yeah, I just don't trust him to fight smartly. He did look very good against Olivier Mercier, but there's definitely been a penchant for him in these recent fights to really try and utilise his stand-up. I appreciate he's been working hard on it at Hard Knocks, but you've got to fight to your strengths, you've got to be smart, and yeah, I do pick him. I definitely think he's going to win here. Surely he fights smart and doesn't try and mess around on the feet, but for me, especially by the time I get the line, which will probably be another couple of days, and I expect him to have been bet up from minus 300, I'm probably looking at minus 400 or so. Yeah, it's not a line I'm going to touch. Might be worth looking at his submission prop, but I still think that's going to have a minus number next to it, so maybe not, but it might be worth having a look at. Let's see where that ends up. But yeah, I'm going to definitely go with Gilbert Burns here, and I'm going to pick him to win via submission. And I hope Mike Davis gets another fight in the UFC, because I do like him. I think he's got some nice stand-up, but very short notice here, and he's been given a very tough opponent. And Mike's finished every opponent he's ever beaten. He's definitely got power in his hands, and you could just tell that he looked very competent on the feet against Sadiq Youssef. But Sadiq is very, very good talent coming through, so there's no shame in that loss there. But I'm going to definitely go with Gilbert Burns to get the victory here, but I'm excited to see Mike in the UFC. Men's welterweight division next, we've got Dhiego Lima taking on Court McGee. I was really surprised when I looked at the stats for these two. For some reason I thought Lima had a bigger height advantage, a couple of inches. He's actually at a 1 inch reach disadvantage in terms of the reach, which really surprised me. I thought Lima was going to have a really big size advantage here, but he doesn't. So McGee's actually got this length advantage by 1 inch. He's 5 years older. Strikes landed per minute. Court McGee pretty high volume, puts out a lot of volume, nearly at 5. Diego's at 2.5. Strikes absorbed. Court McGee's at about 3.5. Dhiego Lima's at 3. Court averages 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. 24% takedown accuracy. Dhiego Lima 66% takedown accuracy and 50% takedown defense. So good fight. Dhiego Lima's second stint in the UFC, coming off a quick win over Chad Laprise, so he one punched. Court McGee a lot more resilient than Chad Laprise, tough guy. Been in the UFC a long time now. He's dealt with a lot of injuries in recent times, but he's managing to put a little bit of a run together here in terms of successive fights. We saw him most recently take on Adix Garcia, managed to win a decision there. Clearly won 2 rounds in that fight. Actually dropped Garcia with a jab, I think, at one point, but pretty much won the fight through his wrestling and top game, which is, I mean, Garcia does have cardio issues, but physically very strong guy. He's a good wrestler, so it's quite an impressive performance from Court McGee there, and he's mixing his training up now at Factory X as well. We know how good the guys coming out of Factory X are looking lately, so I'm glad to see that. Kind of, don't know if the pit is, you know, how high caliber that is in this day and age, so it's nice to see him mixing his training up, training with some high caliber guys. So I'm excited to see him here. Dhiego Lima has, I mean, he's always been a bit of a disappointment. Obviously he's got the good win over Laprise. He done well on the Ultimate Fighter, ran through everyone, lost in the final ultimately, just got out wrestled, and then Yoshino Kami out wrestled him heavily as well. So you've got to imagine Court McGee comes in with a wrestling heavy approach here. Used it very well against Garcia. We've seen him attempt to wrestle in the past as well. Tried to get his wrestling going against Dominic Steele, but he just couldn't get him down. There was a lot of time spent on the fence in that fight. Lost a contentious decision to Ben Saunders. He took Ben down in the third round, clearly won round 3. First 2 rounds were striking. And then Sean Strickland had he clearly lost the decision. It was at the end of the fight, it was announced as a draw, but it ultimately got changed. There was a error made by a judge or Bruce Buffer announcing it. But yeah, he clearly lost that decision there. But it was fairly competitive, especially the first couple of rounds. And Sean Strickland's a very solid fighter. And then, as I mentioned, coming off that win over Alex Garcia. So Court McGee's 34 years of age now. He's only been stopped once, Pons and EBO. So he's a tough guy. So yeah, you've got 2 guys here that are kind of lower level. Dhiego Lima, I've never been high on. Obviously, his brother's really, really good, but Diego's just not on that level. But he's going to be coming in with confidence after that win over Laprice. But clear weakness for... When I watched tape on him as well, I can't even establish what his actual strength is. Does he prefer striking? Does he prefer wrestling? I think he can definitely be out-wrestled here by Court McGee. On the feet, it's probably pretty competitive, but Court's just a gritty, tough, great cardio, sets a high pace. I just think he's going to edge out Lima here. I think he's just... I just think the grittiness of him, it's just going to be too much for Lima. Court McGee doesn't really have any power, but Lima's definitely got a suspect chin. He's been knocked out numerous times. But I just see Court McGee putting a pace on him and just gritting this out and winning a decision. Price on Court McGee at the moment is about -160, which is probably pretty accurate. You don't really want to be betting Court McGee getting on for -200. In the UFC, I imagine there's very few spots where you'd want to bet him at that price because, he is limited athletically. He's not the most amazing athletically gifted fighter out there, but as I said, he is gritty. He will fight for your money, and I like that he's actually putting a bit of a run of consecutive fights together, which hopefully means injuries are behind him. He's mixing up his training, and Dhiego Lima is second run, but Jesse Taylor and Okami are really good wrestlers, but just really got shut down too easily. Still looks too limited for me. I still don't think he's UFC caliber. So I'm going to go with Court McGee there. But yeah, I wouldn't bet big on Court McGee just because, as I said, he's not the most talented fighter in the world, and his price is kind of, I wouldn't want to bet him past -160 just because of the type of fighter he is. I would not be shocked if he lost here, but I do think stylistically it's a good fight for him. So I pick Court McGee to grind out a decision here just by being better in all areas, basically. Women's strawweight division next, £115. We've got Jodie Esquibel taking on Angela Hill. Esquibel was meant to face Jessica Penne, but she's pulled out. So Angela Hill, her teammates, stepped in on I think it's about a week's notice. Angela fought, it must have been a month ago, so I'm not really worried about her being out of shape. I did look on her Instagram, looked like she's been back in the gym, so shouldn't be out of shape for this one. Real quick overview here. Esquibel I did not rate highly at all. She got outstruck by 2018 Jessica Aguilar, says it all. Angela Hill, she's got her faults, namely her ground game and takedown defence, as we saw in her last fight, but solid striker, puts out solid volume. She can slow down a little bit, but she fights through it well. Yeah, Angela Hill here for me. Not sure what I was told yesterday that it opened, this isn't on Best Fight Odds yet either. Apparently Angela Hill opened at -250, so seems about right. I can see it maybe going a little bit steeper. Overs would be interesting here. It's probably going to be juice though. Angela Hill decision, another option to look at. Not a finisher. Esquibel is tough. Saw her take a beating off Grasso. Took a beating off Karolina Kowalczyk. So she's a tough girl, but yeah, I think she's just outclassed here by Angela Hill. So it's a second quick paycheck for Angela Hill. second fight in a month, and she gets to kind of put that loss to Marcos in the rearview mirror here. So I'll pick Angela Hill to pick up a comfortable decision victory here. Next, last fight on the preliminary card on Fight Pass, it's Jim Miller taking on Jason Gonzalez. Definitely feel this is going to be an exciting fight. Jim Miller, we thought he was at the end of his career. He has lost 5 of his last 6, albeit he has faced good competition in those 6 fights. He hasn't been fighting nobodies. Pulled that big win out of the bag against Alex White, but Charles Oliveira just took him down and instantly subbed him. So still not really sure where he's at. He's definitely on the decline. There's no doubt about that. How much more does he have left? I'm not sure. We had the incident where he against Ronaldo. I think it was the end of the second round. In between rounds, he said he didn't have anything left. So there's definitely some concern there. He's been battling the debilitating Lyme disease for the last few years as well. He said, I think it was after the Alex White win, that he's got it under control now. It's the best he's felt, but I know he takes a hell of a lot of medication to keep that under control, so he must be struggling with something still. So there's no way that's not taking something out of his body. So yeah, but I mean he's got a favourable matchup in a way here, in terms of it is a bit of a step down from the competition he has been facing. Obviously he's been losing to top guys. He got the win over Alex White, who is lower tier, and Jason Gonzalez falls into the lower tier spectrum as well. So it's a favourable fight in that sense. But Gonzalez is a beast. He's a very aggressive striker, very big for the weight, really solid stand up. We saw against Gregor Gillespie that, I mean, he posed some problems there for Gillespie. I was actually on Gillespie in that fight by submission. I don't normally bet props, but the line for submission was absurd. It was something like plus 1200, something crazy. And I don't know whether it's because I had a bet on the submission line that it seemed sweatier than it was, but I remember Gonzalez was stuffing the initial shot at least, but the chain wrestling of Gillespie was just too much. But I remember him and some big shots on the feet against Gillespie, so he's really dangerous on the feet, this guy. Trains at King's as well. He's been out for a couple of years though. He's had some injury problems, so has that kind of stumped his growth, or is he still going to come in as looking an improved fighter? He's never been to a decision. He's kill or be killed, this guy, so I imagine he's going to come out hard and fast. He's going to try and put it on Jim Miller. Miller's only been stopped by strikes twice. Cerrone years ago got caught with a head kick, and Dan Hooker caught him with a big knee. But as I said, he's definitely on the decline, and he's probably going to have to come through some adversity here in this first round. So kind of tough fight to call, because Miller is a vet though. He knows what he's doing in there. Can he get his wrestling going and grind Gonzalez out and probably get a submission? Distinct possibility. I'm going to go with Gonzalez just because, albeit I don't like the 2-year layoff, he's had some injuries, I still think he's an improving fighter, whereas Jim Miller is on the decline. So I'm not going to back Miller here, but I can definitely see Miller's path to victory. I can definitely see him surviving an onslaught and taking over the fight. But I'm going to go with Gonzalez. I'm a better. He's the guy with the plus number. He's plus 130. It's definitely not a confident pick, because I don't like Drew Dober fight, for example. Gonzalez just got blown away like in a couple of minutes. It was knocked out. It's just did not like that. I did not like he's looking that fight at all. When he had the fight with the Spaniard on, I think it was the Ultimate Fighter, where he got out wrestled. I haven't rewatched it, but I'm sure he got out wrestled in that fight. But we're going back almost 4 years now, and I think his takedown defence has improved. It looked better against Gillespie, just couldn't deal with the chain wrestling, and he's at King's as well. So, I mean, inside the distance line would be interesting here, because, yeah, as I said, Gonzalez never been the distance. He's kill or be killed. Be surprised if it does go the distance. Gonzalez KO. It's probably the only way he wins. I'd be surprised if he won a decision here against a vet like Jim Miller. So there's kind of different ways to look at it, but his money line is a plus number. It's definitely not a big bet, but it's something to look at. Gonzalez KO, something to look at. Jim Miller sub, something to look at. The fight inside the distance, something to look at. So a few different angles for that fight once the full props come out. So I'm going to go with Gonzalez, but it's definitely not a confident pick, and I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Miller uses his veteran savvy and is able to grind this one out, take it into deep waters, and ultimately get the submission on Gonzalez. But I'd like to see Jim Miller win for everything he's been through, and he's a true vet of the game, but he's going to have to come from some adversity here, and the first round's going to be a testing for him to see how much he does actually want this. So Gonzalez is the pick, but as I said, not confident, tough fight to call. Women's strawweight division, Carla Esparza taking on Jandiroba here. Jandiroba's UFC debut, it's on short notice. She's been in Invicta for a little while now. Very credentialed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She's got wins in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu over Amanda Nunes and Claudia Gadelha. From the fights I've watched, you can see why. A legitimate ground game. Erika Almeida split decision win a couple of years ago. It wasn't a split decision, clearly won the fight. Quick win over Amy Montenegro, who tends to lose all her fights by submission, to be fair. Mizuki Inoue, she won a split decision over. Not a split decision in a million years. I don't know how a judge scored that fight for Inoue. That's just terrible judging. She pretty much dominated the whole fight, did Jandiroba. And she's coming off a second round submission win over the Evil Princess, Janessa Morandin. So from what we've seen, limited striking, uses it to set up her takedowns, kind of throws the overhand. She's got a variety of takedowns that she'll use. She's pretty much dominated every fight that I've watched of hers, but that is at a lot of lower level compared to Carla Esparza, so she's taken a big step up in competition here, but she definitely looks the part on tape. Very solid ground game, smothering top control, which you don't often see in women's MMA, so it's going to be very interesting to see how she makes the step up here into the UFC. Carla Esparza coming off a couple of tough losses. She lost last time out to Suarez, who is an absolute beast. Just Suarez kept taking her down. Esparza, to her credit, kept working her way back up, but just kept getting taken down again. She's just Suarez just way too big and powerful for her. Fight before that, she lost to Claudia Gadelha in a very competitive fight. Could have gone either way, that particular fight. I was on Gadelha in that fight, and I was very nervous when it went to the judge's decision. So she's faced kind of back-to-back the two best wrestlers in the strawweight division, in Gadelha and Suarez, so she's facing a similar opponent here again, but I just don't know whether Jandiroba's at their level. She's definitely not as physical, as big or as strong to me as Gadelha and Suarez, so she's going to have to rely on her technique a lot more here, which she clearly has in abundance. Carla Esparza has a wrestling background. I think she has the striking edge here. Her striking has definitely improved under Colin Oyama. There's no doubt about that in my mind. She's still not a great striker, but I think if you said to me this fight is going to be on the feet for 3 rounds, I think Carla would win a pretty clear decision. It's whether Carla can keep this fight on the feet is the question. She doesn't want to get stuck on her back. We saw her stuck on her back in the first round against the other girl who is got really good ground game in the division, who trains out of Alpha Male, Cynthia Calvillo. She won the next 2 rounds by keeping them on her feet and out striking her, and then we've seen her lose 2 fights due to being stuck on the bottom. It's a hard fight to call. A lot of people I speak to who I respect, they're on Jandiroba here, especially at plus money. No problem whatsoever with anyone taking a punt on her. She might be able to bring the level that she's shown in the lower leagues and translate that against higher level opposition, but it is a bit of a gamble. Obviously we are gambling here, we do take risks, and she's a plus number, so I can't fault anyone for taking the stab. I'm going with Esparza though. It's not a fight I'm confident on. It's not one I'm going to bet, because I just don't know how Jandiroba is going to look at the higher level. But I think Carla's got heart for days. I think she showed decent get-ups against Suarez. Now I know Suarez perhaps doesn't have the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu technique from top position of a Jandiroba, but she's very strong, very physical, and it wasn't like she was trying to unleash ground and pound and was creating space for Carla. She had her head buried in her chest, was trying to hold her down, and Carla was working her way up. So I think it's something Carla's obviously been working on. She managed to get up against Gadetta a few times. And I know Gadetta tired, and I know she had the injury, but she did get up a few times there as well. So it's an interesting fight for me. Jandiroba needs to keep her grounded for 3 rounds if she can't get a submission, because on the feet I think she loses. And it'd be interesting to see if Esparza mixes in her wrestling here and takes Jandiroba down and gets some top time. Because we haven't really seen Jandiroba on the bottom. Couple of quick scrambles against Inoue, but one of them was off a head and arm throw from Inoue, which is easy to escape. So it's kind of hard to get a gauge for her bottom game in MMA. So very intriguing fight. I expect this is going to close as an even money fight. Carla's still a slight favourite, but I think it's hard to be overly confident either way. But yeah, I can't fault people betting Jandiroba at plus money. I was going to say I don't like kind of betting people on the assumption that I think they're going to be able to get someone down, but I've done that with Evloev, to be fair, last week. We hadn't really seen the guy he fought takedown defense or bottom game, but I just assumed that Evloev was that good that he would be able to do what he actually done. Here, Jandiroba is facing someone who kind of level wise is a lot higher level than the Chinese or Korean chap that Evloev fought. Carla is one of the top fighters in the strawweight division, so she's making a bigger step than Evloev did in terms of opposition. So I'm going to say Carla wins the decision. I can see it being a very close split type decision, but I just think her stand up will come through. I think she can have some success defending takedowns and even getting back to her feet. I don't see why she shouldn't mix in her own takedowns either. She's got a heavy, fairly heavy top control. It's hard to hit subs and sweeps from the bottom if you're a competent top player, and I think Carla's a decent enough top level grappler to maybe get some ground time and just keep her guessing as well. Not let her worry about the hands and think, the shot could come as well, make her a bit hesitant, make her kind of question some of her own decisions. So yeah, I really want Carla to mix it up here, but it's going to be close. But I'm going to pick Carla in a split decision type fight. But as I said, not a confident pick. It's a tough one to call, and I can't fault anyone who's playing plus money on Jandiroba. And if Carla goes to plus money again, can't fault anyone betting Carla if she ends up in that position. But really intriguing fight. Men's heavyweight division next. As you probably started to learn, not a favourite of mine, especially a lower level one. We've got Andrei Arlovski taking on Augusto Sakai. Arlovski 2-8 in his last 10 fights in the UFC. At least he's stopped getting knocked out. He's definitely changed his style up somewhat, which is probably not really helping him in terms of getting victories, but it is at least stopping him getting KO'd, and he's being given fairly favourable matchups in terms of kind of the level. Since the Ngannou loss, they've given him kind of lower stroke mid-tier heavyweights, so he's been matched quite nicely. He's got another one again here. He's coming off 3 losses in a row. The Walt Harris fight was ultimately overturned, but he did lose to Walt before that Shamil, for that Tai Tuivasa. The Tai Tuivasa fight was actually a pretty close fight, and he did have back-to-back wins before that over Struve and Albini. He's training American top team these days. He is 40 years of age. As we know, heavyweights tend to last a lot longer than other weights because they don't rely on reflexes so much. And as I said, Arlovski has changed his style. He's not nearly as aggressive as he once was, but yeah, he's definitely at the end of the road, but he's not completely shot, and he's got a winnable fight here. Sakai isn't the best fighter in the world. The only concern I do have is he is 27. He's very young, so he could still be improving, but he's going to have made a big leap from what we've seen in the UFC in terms of me being confident in picking him here. I bet Cheick Kongo against him. Must be a couple of years ago now when they was over in Bellator. It was a awful fight. Kongo just hugged him against the fence pretty much for the whole fight. So, it's, as I always say, low level heavyweights are tough fights to call. Arlovski is a betting podcast, as you guys know. Arlovski's the man with the plus number. I'm just looking at Sakai's number, and I just read that Ricardo Lima's been killed, hit and run in Brazil. Wow, awful news. Sorry, back to the fight. So Augusto Sakai, 12-1, 27. It's coming off a third round win over Chase Sherman. We know Chase Sherman is not UFC caliber. You've got a win on the Contender Series against a pretty awful opponent, Marcos Conrado. So has he improved in the last 6 months or so? I don't know. Hard fight to call. As I said, as a better, plus number is next to Arlovski at the moment. I've got a feeling by fight night Arlovski's going to be a slight favourite. He's coming down. He was at plus 120. He's down to plus 110 now, so money's slowly coming in on Arlovski. I wouldn't be surprised if Arlovski ends up being the favourite here, or a slight favourite, even potentially. But he is 13-14 years older, so it's tough to have much faith in him. And as I said, he's kind of changed his style up. He's not as aggressive as he once was. So is that gonna? Well, it's definitely affecting him in terms of winning decisions, because he's just putting a lot of decisions. Sakai. I was looking at his shadow's been really slow for me, so I'm starting to look on Tapology, but it looks like most of his wins are stoppage wins. So I'll go with Arlovski to win once more in the UFC. Potentially his final win in the UFC, maybe, depending on who they match him up with next. But he's at American Top Team, so at least there's some hunger still evident there. He's still trying to improve. But it's a low level fight. It's hard to be confident either way. I definitely wouldn't bet on it. Normally with heavyweight fights, I'd say look at inside the distance, but in fact they've just dropped these lines. Let's have a look what it is. In fact, the to go the distance is what I'm looking at here, rather than inside the distance, which is pretty rare for a MMA heavyweight fight. Fight goes to decision. It's favoured as well, minus 140 inside the distance, plus 100, but it'd be a sweaty 3 rounds with heavyweights. Every time a punch whiffs by someone's nose, you're going to be cacking yourself. So it's one I'm not overly confident on for any play whatsoever. Pass fight for me, but I can see why people will be stabbing Arlovski. I definitely wouldn't be going big on Arlovski though, even if with a plus number. It's a fighter on his way out, so tread carefully with that one. Men's welterweight division next. We've got Ben Saunders, Killer B, taking on Takashi Sato, who's been fighting in Pancrase most recently. Ben Saunders seems like he's on his way out. Definitely looks like a shot fighter to me. Definitely got some chin issues now. Really like fading fighters in these spots. He's lost 4 of his last 5. All 4 of those losses are stopped by stoppage. 3 of them TKO or KO losses. 1 a submission loss to Sergio Morales. He's got the win sandwich right in the middle against probably even more shot Jake Ellenberger, who he won with a knee to the body. And then before that run, he's got the win over Court McGee that most people scored that for Court McGee. So you could easily be looking at 5 losses from his last 6 here. So yeah, he definitely looks like a fighter on the way out to me. He's coming off a brutal knockout loss to Lyman Good. Takashi Sato, I don't know, a fair bit of tape on him. His Pancrase fights are available on Fight Pass. I went back and watched his fight with Takashi, which he won in the first round. Which a couple of ones after that, which again KO wins. I watched his fight with Glaso Franca, who we know from the UFC. Really good fight with Glaso Franca. He was 2 rounds to 1 up going into the 4th round. Ultimately got choked out, but showed some really sharp hands in that fight. just gives his back up a lot. He gets taken down, and when the way he works back to his feet is by giving his back up. And ultimately, Franco managed to sink the submission in the 4th round, and he's coming off a win over an Australian fighter in Pancrase, Matt Val. Had to come back from some adversity in that fight. He got dropped quite badly, was hurt in that fight, but came back and won with TKO from Mount, basically, which I saw him doing another fight. But he's got power standing up. He's a southpaw. I think his power is going to be too much for Ben here. Problem with Ben is he's a very good grappler, but he just doesn't really seem to go for takedowns. Whenever you see him on the ground, he seems to be on his back, where he's got a really effective rubber guard. But it's just so hard to be effective off your back in modern day MMA. And if he can't get the fight to the floor, I've got no reason to believe Sato's going to want to take him to the floor. Surely he wants this on the feet. Colt McGee, he used the body kick against Colt McGee to kind of keep him at range, kept spamming it. I imagine he's going to use it here against Sato, who's a southpaw. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage, but his hands aren't particularly good. He's just got good knees and kicks, so I imagine he's going to try and use that body kick a lot to keep the distance, try and keep Sato away. But I think Sato's going to connect with something at some point and put Ben away. But I mean, Japanese fighters just historically just tend to struggle in the UFC. They, odd exception here or there, they've always never really been able to find their groove. But Sato, you couldn't really ask for a better fight here. Ben Saunders is definitely shot. He's definitely on his way out. Line on Sato -210. It's a little bit too pricey for me at the moment. Debuting fighter. Is it a step up from your Glaso Francas? I'd argue it isn't. I don't think Franca's a bad fighter. I think at worst he's similar level to kind of Ben Saunders. You just don't see Ben on top of people. It's always submissions from the bottom and on the feet. If this is on the feet for 3 rounds, I've got to favour Sato. But Ben does have that reach advantage. Can he keep his... I was going to say, can he keep his chin away from being caught? But he's quite upright. His chin's there to be nailed. Sato, once he settles in, he's got quite fluid hands, nice combinations, good power. I'm going to go with Sato to win. I think he can win this by knockout as well. I think he's going to put Ben away. I think if Ben loses, he needs to hang up his gloves. He's had a lot of head trauma in recent fights, KO losses. He's getting up there in age as well now, so I'm going to go with Sato. As I said, debuting fighter, Japanese fighter as well. It doesn't leave me kind of in a situation where I'm overly confident. I definitely don't like the way he gives his back when he's getting back to his feet, but as I said, Saunders just doesn't seem to go for takedowns. It's not really his staple. Works better from the bottom when he's taken down, so really this fight shouldn't hit the mat, should be on the feet, and I have to favour Sato here. But from a betting perspective, I'd definitely like the price to be a bit cheaper on Sato, but I'm going to go with him to win this by knockout, probably in the I'll say 2nd round. I don't normally predict rounds, but I think round 1 to kind of warm up, and I think you can catch him in the 2nd round. Just touching quickly back on the Ben Saunders fight, he only attempts 0.22 or averages 0.22 takedowns per 15 minutes, so yeah, he's going to have difficulty getting this fight to the floor, so I have to side with Sato here if it's going to be a kickboxing match for 3 rounds. Final point on the McGee fight again, Saunders fight, is he's only attempted 1 takedown, which he actually got against Patrick Cote his last 12 fights, so you can definitely expect this to be on the feet. I mean, he's just shown no urgency to take a fight to the floor. Crazy stat, crazy looking through that. I can't believe that. So yeah, 1 takedown attempted in his last 12 fights. Right, let's move on to the main card now. So first fight of the main card, we've got Roosevelt Roberts taking on Thomas Gifford. Roosevelt has looked pretty impressive to me so far. Looks like a solid enough prospect. 7-0 professional record. We've seen him twice now. We saw him on the Dana White Contender Series, comfortable win over Garrett Gross, stopped him in round 2, choked him out. And coming off a win in his UFC debut against Darrell Hulcher, who, I mean, Hulcher's limited, he's not the best fighter in the world, but Roberts looked really, really solid in that fight, very composed on the feet, nice stand up, defended the takedowns well that Hulcher attempted, and locked up a really nice guillotine choke stand-in to get the victory. So, looks like a solid enough prospect. Thomas Gifford, his last fight I haven't watched. It is available on Flow Combat. You've got to pay for it. I probably will get round to having a look at it at some point. All I've seen, it was a 2-0 guy from Jackson Wink, and it's being touted as a fight of the year. The first minute is available on YouTube, where he gets dropped, and Roberts from his back locks up a triangle stroke armbar that's really tight, and it cuts out. But from the tape, it looks like his stand-up's fairly basic, albeit there isn't much tape to go off. Pretty limited takedown defense. He's one of these guys that's gotten through on the regional scene, which you can if you're really good off your back by hitting submissions off of his back, but that doesn't work in the UFC. It's too high a level. Being comfortable being on your back and trying to win from your back is not going to happen. Roosevelt Roberts, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could get caught, because he's fairly green himself. He's only had 7 fights, but I don't even see this touching the floor. It looks to me that Gifford doesn't really have any takedown ability, just gets taken down easy and manages to work well off his back. No reason to believe Roberts wants to take this to the floor. I'm pretty sure he's the better striker, but you are paying the prospect price tag, because he is a minus 350 favourite, which is expensive for a guy in only his second fight, who we haven't really seen that deal with any adversity or whatnot, against a debuting guy who footage is fairly limited, but I think I've got a fairly accurate read on the type of fighter Gifford is. He went to Factory X for the last about the last month of this camp, because he's at a kind of no-name gym. Otherwise, he's probably top of the food chain at his gym. So, good move. But it's very hard to improve yourself in a time span of a month. You need, even if you're a young guy, you still need a good 6 months to a year to really work on some improvement. So, yeah, I've got no reason to believe Roberts doesn't win this fight. I think he can keep it on the feet. Winner, I think he can knock him out. To be fair, he's been stopped a number of times. Gifford, he's got a 14-7 professional record. Little bit misleading perhaps, because he suffered losses early in his career. I think he's on like a 8-fight win streak, something along that line. So he's kind of clearly improved, gotten more comfortable in there, but he does still look a little bit basic in the sense he's kind of happy to try and win off of his back. So Roberts looks like a decent, promising fighter. It's just whether you want to pay that prospect price tag of minus 350. But I'll go with Roberts here to win by knockout. Men's bantamweight division next. This is one of the more popular fights on the card, I feel, from a fan's perspective, and a lot of the kind of sharp bettors that I speak to are fairly confident in John Lineker here. John Lineker taking on Cory Sandhagen. This fight was scheduled, I think it was a couple of months ago now, but it was Lineker that got injured and pulled out. Sandhagen fought someone on short notice that destroyed the guy in the first round. So we all know about John Lineker. Had problems making the weight at 125. He's only 5'3", small guy, but hands of stone is his nickname. He's got heavy hands. They look really big as well when you just see his hands kind of in his gloves. It's like he's got some large hands on him, which would explain the power he has. Works the body really well, really good pressure, shown a granite chin, albeit he did have his jaw broken in the TJ Dillashaw fight. There was a moment where Brian Kelleher seemed to rock him as well, so I'm not saying his chin's going, but a couple of little things to bear in mind, because even lighter weight guys, there's a point where you can only take so much damage, and that chin starts to go, and the brain will shut down if you get hit with good enough shots. So but yeah, the guy's a beast. Insane forward pressure, works the body really well. He's got a nasty guillotine as well. We haven't seen it for a while, but for a guy at this weight class, really possesses some serious power, and he's always exciting to watch. And this is probably going to be a really exciting stand-up fight because Cory Sandhagen is a very solid stand-up guy. Complete opposite. He's rangy, he's long. Kind of mixes the attack up with the legs, with the hands, really cuts angles. He's got real great variety in his attack. The weakness we've seen with Sandhagen, and this is kind of where everyone who's confident in Lineker is going with this fight, is does back up in straight lines, pretty linear, and that's very dangerous against John Lineker. You don't want to be getting backed up into the fence, and the problem he's got as well, he's quite tall for the weight class. So he's one of them that's these tall guys, albeit they're taller, so they're kind of harder to hit in theory, but it's easy to land those overhands on them, and you can just envisage Lineker landing a bomb on that chin. I'm not as confident as a lot of the people that I chat to are with regards to Lineker. I don't really feel I've got quite a full read on Sandhagen yet, and why I appreciate everyone saying that that he has shown that as a vulnerability. Showed it in the fight against Austin Arnett. He got caught by Alcantara early as well. He still came through and absolutely dominated them fights. So I think he's a real talented guy. So Lineker's around -150 at the moment, and it might be one I look back on in hindsight and about, you guys were right, and missed that there. But I don't go against my gut. I don't let people talk me into bets. I've done it in the past, and it's bitten me hard. I'm not saying it hasn't gone the other way; it has, but I do like to stick with my own reads. Lineker's at American Top Team, looks in great shape. We haven't seen him. He's been out for about a year. We last saw him against Brian Kelleher, brutal knockout in the third round. Fight before that was his first fight back from the broken jaw, the kind of lackluster performance against Marlon Vera. Maybe that stuck in my head a little bit, that Marlon Vera fight. But yeah, Cory Sandhagen, I'm very impressed with. He's at Elevation Fight Team, good camp, only 27, still improving. Yeah, he's looked solid. I mean, besides the examples people bring up where he's been backed up, and it's only you've got one or two scenarios, so I feel people might be clinging to that a little bit too much. I can see Sandhagen potentially causing problems here. So yeah, I'm not as confident on Lineker as others, as I've said. But at the same time, it's hard for me to pick Sandhagen here because we just haven't really seen him tested. He's just dominated everyone his fault. My prediction, I'm going to go Sandhagen. As I said, I'm not confident. I don't know why I'm really going Sandhagen. I just think his combinations, his footwork, I think it could cause Lineker some problems and outpoint him here. But he's obviously got to be very careful. If he does get caught, it could be lights out for him. And even just the pressure game of Lineker, if he is still being linear, backing up into the fence, could easily lose a decision here. And he's either body shot's going to pay dividends. He's a rangier guy, so he's got kind of a longer body to go at. The body shots are going to be there for Lineker. Will this guy slow down? Just having a quick look at Sandhagen. Actually, have we seen him go? Yeah, he's won a couple of decisions earlier on in his career. And saying that, I saw the Jamal Emmers fight, which was a couple of years ago. I don't think it's available anymore, but I remember watching it. I think it might be when I capped Sandhagen last year, or maybe I was looking at Emmers. I saw that fight. He lost that fight due to wrestling, pretty much. It was a very close fight. But he's going to get the stand-up fight here with Lineker. Can Sandhagen mix in takedowns as well? We've seen him hit a couple of nice takedowns. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but I do suspect this is going to be on the feet for 3 rounds. And yeah, I'm going to go Sandhagen. I don't know why. I mean, like I said, a lot of people I talk to are on Lineker. I see where they're coming from with the argument that he backs up, but I don't know. I've still got that Vera fight in my head for some reason. Vera's kind of similar size to Sandhagen in terms of the height and range. did Lineker struggle because of that, or was it just the layoff and first fight back from a broken jaw made him a little hesitant? Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I do genuinely think Cory Sandhagen is a very talented fighter. But he's a big guy coming down to 135, so I hope he isn't weak to the body. That's a possibility as well. But I'll go Sandhagen to win a decision. Not confident though. Could definitely go either way. I can definitely see what people are saying Lineker is going to actually doing. So excited to see it, but it's going to be a good fight. But yeah, I'm going to go on a limb here and go with the underdog to pull out the victory here. So Cory Sandhagen. Men's light heavyweight division next. Ion Cuțelaba taking on Glover Teixeira. Another one where again I'm just not as confident as a lot of people that I speak to seem to be. Everyone's on Cuțelaba, and I fully understand why. The guy's a beast. He's got a Greco-Roman background, young, improving. Albeit I still think he's at some no-name gym over in, is it Moldova he's from? I really think he does need to make the step up at some point to a better gym. But yeah, the guy's looked really impressive in the UFC. I'll forever be grateful for him. I bet him against Frankenstein, which he won in about like 7 seconds. It's one of the easiest bets I've ever had. Just no sweat whatsoever. We last saw him against Antigulov. Antigulov hit about 4 easy takedowns in the first round, but Cuțelaba kept getting straight back up to his feet pretty much. Antigulov gassed and he's got finished against the fence. Before that he beat Frankenstein. And we saw him lose to Jared Cannonier. Started strong, but Cannonier set a ferocious pace and just came back at him in that fight after a tough first round and won the next 2 rounds. Really, really good fight if you've never seen it. We saw him lose to Misha Serkinov in his debut. Got taken down in the 3rd round. He tired and he got stopped. Did tire against Cannonier as well. So, is there a possibility he could tire here if he can't get Glover out of there? I think it's a possibility, definitely. We've seen him tire a couple of times in the UFC. Glover, great fighter, but he's not the fighter that fought John Jones for the title. He is declining. He's getting up there in age now. He's getting towards 40 years of age. Chin is starting to show some cracks in it, most definitely. And that's where the danger lies here, is if he does get caught by Cuțelaba, it could be night. Glover, he's a smart fighter. I'm pretty sure he's not going to come out here trying to trade punches with Cuțelaba. He's looking very slow as well. Glover, he's definitely lost. He's never been the fastest fighter, but he's definitely lost a bit of speed. No doubt about that whatsoever. So he's going to need takedowns here and to use his ground game. He's very good on the ground. He's got very good submissions. No reason why he can't lock up a submission if he can get Cuțelaba down. Particularly if it's a more tired Cuțelaba, if it's kind of round 2 and 3, but he's going to have to survive a fair amount of time to take this into deep waters, and any time on the feet is going to be a worry if you're a Glover better, because as I say, that chin is definitely starting to crack, and Cuțelaba definitely has ferocious power. He's coming off the win over Carl Robertson, who was a short notice replacement for Cuțelaba, but he was badly hurt with elbows in that fight when he was trying to take Robertson down. He managed to recover and get on top and get the arm triangle. Before that he lost to Cory Anderson, where he looked really poor. Cory fought very smart, used a wrestling heavy approach, but he didn't look good. He didn't look good on the feet against Misha Serkinov either. Really slow, but he hit that takedown and got that submission, or actually pounded him out, not a submission. And before that he took a brutal beating against Gustafsson, got stopped in the 5th round. Before that he beat Cannonier, wrestled him for 3 rounds, no problem. And Anthony Johnson one-punched him in about 10 seconds. So there's cracks there. But I'm going to pick Glover here. I think Glover can get the takedowns here. How good is Cuțelaba at getting back to his feet? He got up against Antigulov, but kind of how good is Antigulov? He's stepped up in the UFC now, and he last 2 fights he's looked pretty bad. Glover's definitely got a big round advantage, but the worry is if he gets him down in round one, doesn't get the sub, each round starts back on the feet, so it's advantage back to Cuțelaba. He does have that Greco-Roman background. I don't know what kind of level though, and I mean, he was getting tired, but he ended up on his back against Cannonier in their fight, and Antigulov, as I said, he got 4 takedowns and they were pretty easy. Glover knows what he's doing on the mat, so it's not a confident pick, because there's actually more fights on this card than I thought that are harder to call, because there's just question marks. It's just how much does Glover have left and how good is Cuțelaba ultimately. But I think Glover needs to, if he's got to drag this into deep waters if he can't get a first round submission, and that is going to make it nervy for him to survive on the feet for X amount of time. So I'm not confident, but I'm going to pick Glover to lock up a submission here. He's going to have to come through some adversity most likely. Question is, can he? I mean, he's definitely game still, mentally. It's just physically whether his chin can hold up. So it's a risky one. Not one I'd particularly recommend betting unless you're really confident in Glover. Glover submission prop would be interesting. I'm not a prop better really myself, but if you're into props, Glover submission probably worth a look. The under, I imagine, will be set at 1.5 for this fight. Might be worth a look, especially if you like Cuțelaba. Might be worth going with the under. Perhaps you'll probably get a better price than a Cuțelaba money line as well. But it's just whatever you like playing. I prefer to stick to money line generally. I can't get much money down on props anyway due to kind of sizes I bet, and I'm banned online, and it therefore then involves me messing around going to betting shops and so forth, which I don't really have time for. So yeah, I'm just not as confident. A lot of people are very confident in Cuțelaba. I don't share that confidence. I'm still not 100% sold on him. I'd bet him against Frankenstein because I thought it was a great stylistic fight for him, but Glover can pose problems with his grappling. So I'm going to go with Glover to win by submission here, but I'm not overly confident on it. I'm just not fully sold on Cuțelaba yet, but this fight will give us hopefully a better idea. I'd like to see it go into rounds 2 and 3. Let's see how Cuțelaba looks past round 1, see how his cardio looks. Be interesting, and if he can get up from under Glover, then the guy's got some solid get-ups, because that would have been twice in a row he would have shown it against very dangerous top position grapplers. Men's welterweight division next, Brazilian Cowboy taking on Mike Perry. So Mike Perry, all intents and purposes, is a brawler, showing a really solid chin in the UFC. He got knocked out in professional boxing, but UFC, that chin's held up for him so far. He's fought some solid guys in the UFC: Cerrone, Griffin, Ponzinibbio, Chubane. Lost to all of them. He's got wins over Ellenberger, Alex Reyes, Paul Felder, Danny Roberts, and Dhiego Lima. Big power. Takedown defense, we haven't really seen it. We've only really seen it against Ponzinibbio, who hit a number of takedowns in the 3rd round, but Perry was pretty gassed in round 3 as well. He did work back to his feet each time. I think it was the 3rd takedown he got held down for the longest, maybe a minute or so. But yeah, he did show kind of decent-ish gave his back, so you can get away with that against certain people. Someone like Ponzinibbio, you're probably going to get away with it against, but obviously you've got to be more careful when it's a more dangerous grappler. But he kind of gave his back to get up, and it worked for him, got back to his feet. It's coming off that loss to Donald Cerrone where he got armbarred. He actually took Cerrone down, and it was ultimately his undoing. And before that he had the win over Paul Felder, a closely contested fight. I mean, what we have seen is he can be outboxed. Alan Jabane done it, Max Griffin done it. Ponzinibbio, I wouldn't say Ponzinibbio done it. That was actually a really competitive fight. I rewatched that yesterday, and he gave Ponzinibbio some problems on the feet. Ponzinibbio didn't seem to like the power he was on the receiving end of, and ultimately in round 3 he kind of grounded Perry out to win that decision. So Perry's got big power on the feet. He can take a shot. Brazilian Cowboy, very entertaining fighter. What I do want to point out, I see a lot of people saying, this is going to be a stand-up war, and they're going with Perry because he's got a plus number next to him, because you favour Perry in a brawl. But Cowboy uses wrestling a lot in his fights. Something that he's really fallen on for a large number of his fights. We've seen him use it. He definitely doesn't just brawl. I mean, I know the Yancy Medeiros fight was a bit of a brawl, and we have seen him in that. But he's got wrestling in his back pocket, and he's not afraid to use it. So if he does go that route here, as I said, Perry's takedown defense is a bit of an unknown because we've only really seen it in that third round against Ponzinibbio. But there's a possibility he could get his wrestling going here, get his top game going. Can be really grinding. We've seen it in a lot of his earlier fights. I think it's more his recent ones that have kind of been tended to be wars, like the Medeiros fight, the Condit fight, and quick win over Pedersoli. And then he's coming off that loss to Gunnar Nelson, where he actually had a really good first round. I mean, he's back taken, managed to escape, and managed to deliver some good ground and pound against Gunnar Nelson from top position, but ultimately got stopped in the second round. I don't like to call fighters quitters, but I just think there is a bit of that mentality with Brazilian Cowboy. We saw in the first Tim Means fight, wasn't having it all his own way, and it seemed to me that he took the easy way out. I mean, he did get hit by an illegal knee, but I don't think it was nearly as bad as he made out. And I remember Tim Means saying post-fight he saw him in the changing room with his team, like they were celebrating or something. But yeah, it seemed to take the easy way out there for me. The Donald Cerrone fight where he got triangled, that looked like there's no way that triangle was locked fully in. That looked like a panic tap to me. I mean, the Yancy Medeiros fight, he showed a lot of heart in that fight, to be fair. That was an absolute war. But then Gunnar Nelson cracked him with that elbow, it cut him open, and he just, as soon as he was cut, he just seemed to quit. I don't know, I just think he might, it's just something I've noticed. Mike Perry's a savage, he's not going to quit, he's going to keep coming, he's got power. So if this fight is going to be on the feet, if you said to me now it's going to be on the feet for however long it lasts, I'd definitely take Perry at the plus number. He's got big power, he's shown a solid chin. But Brazilian Cowboy can mix up the wrestling here. It's just how good is Perry's takedown defense. That's what I'm just unsure on. He done his last camp at Jackson Wink, but he's moved back to his old team now. I think it's called Fusion. I think they're over in Florida. They've got some decent names there. You've got Jacare trains there now. I know Alan Patrick's there. Alex Nicholson's there as well, who's like his old kind of buddy. So yeah, he's gone back to his normal camp for this fight. I imagine he's been doing a fair bit with Jacare. Maybe they're both fighting on the same card here, so I think he would have been wise to, especially defensively. There is a picture of them together on their Instagram, and he's put a note: best defense, always a great offense. Yes, yeah, I imagine they've done, surely if you're at the same camp as Jacare, you want to utilise him as much as you can. But it's hard to pick up a lot just from one camp. But as I said, he did show decent get-ups against Ponzinibbio. But Brazilian Cowboy has leaned heavily on that grappling before, and we've seen him take the back of Tim Means and choke him out. So it's a hard fight for me to be confident in. I think as a betting man, Perry's plus 160. I just don't know if Brazilian Cowboy is going to come out and wrestle. If he does, he's pretty effective. I mean, he's not overly technical. He just kind of powers his takedowns and so forth. But he can muscle some stuff, and it ends up leaving gaps. I'm going to go with Perry. I've got a feeling he's going to get the fight he wants here. I think he might be able to sucker Brazilian Cowboy into a bit of a brawl. But I think as soon as he hurts Brazilian Cowboy feels that power. I think he will go into wrestling mode. So it's a hard one to call. This is honestly a hard fight for me to call. I definitely cannot play Brazilian Cowboy at minus 185. As a bettor, you've got to go with Mike Perry. With these, I'm really unsure how this fight's going to play out, and someone's plus 160 here. So there's a path to victory for Mike Perry. If it is a brawl, I think he wins it. How's Alex Oliveira going to fight? I'm really not sure. And even if he does wrestle, can he wrestle Perry? I just haven't really seen Perry's takedown defense tested enough to honestly be able to answer that. So, and as I said, I do think Brazilian Cowboy's got a little bit of quit in him. So I'm going to pick Mike Perry. I'm not massively confident in the pick because I just can't get a full read on what Brazilian Cowboy is going to do. We all know what Mike Perry's going to do. But plus 160, yeah, I could definitely see the value there. In my head, I'm thinking, is this a pick-em fight? Or should it be a pick-em fight on the odds? So you've got to play Mike Perry, I think. So yeah, I'm going to go with Mike Perry here. I think he might be able to put Brazilian Cowboy away. So I'll say Perry to win inside the distance. But I think the right side there is definitely the plus 160. I'd be surprised if Brazilian Cowboy can come out and just completely dominate this fight with his wrestling. I think there's going to be periods on the feet. I mean, he's a lot rangier and so forth, but and I mean, he does have some power himself, Brazilian Cowboy. Let's not disrespect his power. So again, that makes it. Yeah, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. I'll go with Perry though. Betting perspective, plus 160. I think this should be a more closely lined fight. The co-main event is Greg Hardy. He's getting another shot as a co-main, taking on Dmitrii Smoliakov. Hardy's minus 300. I think people are nuts that are playing Greg Hardy. He's got massive power, we know that, but he's still really, really green, as we saw in his last fight, which he lost. He ultimately got disqualified, but he was on his way to losing that fight for me against Alan Crowder. I think Crowder was going to win there. So yeah, did he take the easy way out there? Who knows? We'll learn a bit more about his character in his next few fights. The UFC are trying to give Hardy a win here. Smoliakov's not looked good in the UFC. Stopped by Louis Enrique and Cyril Asker. So yeah, they're trying to give him the best opportunity they can to get a win here. I think he will get the win. I think he's going to knock Smoliakov out, but there's no way I'm risking any money on Greg Hardy. I was on the under in his last fight, and I got really, really fortunate that he threw that illegal knee, and I think I won it by like 1 second. Fight doesn't go to decision is minus 400. To be honest, that's probably free money. It's very steep, minus 400, but I'd rather lay that than lay minus 300 on Greg Hardy. If there's a parlay you like on this card, something you really like, a second leg you really like, don't think you can do much harm in putting a double together there. I wouldn't go huge because freaky things happen, but I mean, he's never been the distance in any of his fights. Smoliakov, so I remember to look at Tapology, which doesn't give you the KO or submission ratio like Shadow, but Shadow's just not loading for me. Both his UFC losses are inside the distance. Doesn't list how he won his regional fights, but all the fights that are listed are inside the distance. So yeah, this fight's not going to a decision, so it's probably easy money there, minus 400. And like I said, you like it with something else on the card. There's definitely some good fights, don't go to distance bets on this card. They're going to be a bit juiced, but just can't see them, some of them not hitting. Next fight on the card, we've got, so it's the main event, we've got Jack Hermansson taking on Jacare. Jacare's just moved to minus 200. Steepest I've seen him. At one point he was down at, I saw his line down at minus 130. Jack Hermansson, he's a solid fighter. He's taken this on short notice, albeit I'm not worried about him taking this fight on short notice because he fought such a short time ago. Very quick win over David Branch. Before that he destroyed Gerald Meerschaert. He's a Norwegian guy, trains in Norway. Very, very good top game. But that's kind of how he wins his fights, is from top position with ground and pound, really, really heavy with it. But do you really want to be entering that world with Jacare? So that leaves the question: if you can't take Jacare down and pound him out, how's he going to win this fight? For me, I think he's got very few paths to victory here. Very surprised the line came down to minus 130. It's probably fairly accurate now. There's a few question marks on Jacare. He's almost 40. People bring up the cardio issue as well. This is a 5-rounder. But I think Jacare fights through pretty well, even if he does get tired. We saw him knock out Chris Weidman in his last fight in round 3. We saw him have the most dominant round of the fight in round 3 against Yoel Romero. We've seen arguably he won round 3 against Kelvin Gastelum. Now, he was winded in that fight, but so was Gastelum, to be fair. It was a hectic pace, but he fought through it, and you could argue that he won that fight. So Jacare hasn't really shown any signs to me of slowing down. There's rumours that he's not rumours, but you can see his body type has changed a little bit. Is that coming off the PEDs? Is that age? Is it a combination of the two? But the guy's still a monster on top. He's arguably the most effective MMA grappler we've had in the sport. Just an absolute beast from top control. How's Jack going to cope with that guy on top of him? Jack's stepped up twice in the UFC level wise, and he's been wiped out both times. Mutanti comfortably outstruck him in round 1, hit a takedown in round 2, subbed him within 60 seconds of the takedown, and Thiago Silva just ran through him. Jack just kind of seemed to quit. He's faced Thiago's latest, who's a credentialed BJ guy. Bit of a weird fight. Jack got the injury. I don't know how much it affected him, but he was in submission trouble a couple of times in that fight. Fought through it really well and managed to pound Laters out, but that wasn't the Laters of his prime years, and Laters ultimately retired. I think he had one more fight and then he retired, so he was at the end of his career. So he's looked really effective beating lower to mid-level comp, but struggled when he stepped up. And I just don't see it. I just can't see how he beats Jacare. He wins fights by taking people down and pounding them out. Unless Jacare is absolutely exhausted, that's not happening in a million years here. So I think he needs Jacare. I think he needs to survive the onslaught. But Jacare's got a solid chin. He's got power standing. He's not the most technical, but the guy hits hard. Saw that against Chris Weidman. 2 rounds down. He was having spurts of success on the feet against Weidman the first 2 rounds, but Chris was ultimately just outworking him on the feet. Better technique, better stand up, but then Crack laid him out cold in the 3rd round. So the guy's still a beast. So I'm definitely going with Jacare here to win by submission. Just gutted I couldn't get that minus 130. It would have been a great line, whereas now it's pretty accurate. So how much value's there, I don't know. What's inside the distance? Because I don't see this going the distance. I think Jacare gets to stop it. Oh wow, minus 565. I didn't think it was going to be that steep. It's even steeper than the Alistair Overeem Olinek fight. That hung around at minus 500 until I think pretty much like a couple of days before the fight, and we're like a week out here and it's already steeper, which seems a little bit crazy to me. So I didn't think that was going to be as steep, but minus 565 fight doesn't go the distance. Is that what it opened at? Oh wow, it's been bet up. It opened at minus 400, so everyone's been all over that. So but my pick definitely is Jacare there. So this is I like this card a lot more than I did the last card. It's going to be entertaining. It's better for betting, albeit there are a number of fights with a lot of question marks actually, especially in terms of how much fighters have got left and so forth. And you've got a few potential fighters you could fade, like Glover Teixeira, although I've gone the other way. Ben Saunders, another one, definitely on their way out. Jacare is nearly 40, but he hasn't shown that kind of potential decline that the others have. Jim Miller as well, you could potentially be looking to fade because he's on his way out. So there's three there that I wouldn't fault you for betting the other side because they do look like they're on the way out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this card. We've also got there's Bellator as well, so there might be a Bellator bet, guys. Cage Warriors, there's definitely a Cage Warriors bet if I get lines. Well, I say definitely, I've not taped it yet, but pre-tape I'm pretty sure. And it's subject to the line as well, but I think I'll get a decent enough line. But it's subject to odds. I just really hope I get odds for Cage Warriors. So there's going to be more bets. Members have already got 2 bets for this UFC card. There will be more bets for this UFC card. Just need to work out what prices I get. I get prices a lot later than the guys in America. So I have to wait for the high street bookies to get the lines. Because if I can't bet it on Matchbook, then I have to go to the bookie shop. So yeah, there's definitely more plays coming though, and there's very likely going to be plays for Bellator and Cage Warriors. It's going to be a big weekend for us. We're going to have boxing live betting before the UFC, then we've got the UFC, so live betting as well. So yeah, so members, £100 or €100 or $100 per unit bettors, in profit for £6,500, euros at the moment. Let's try and break through to 7,000. That would be amazing if we can do that this weekend. But there's going to be a lot of action on the table. It's going to be one of our bigger cards or MMA betting nights of the year, I suspect. But as I said, I'm just waiting for lines and everything to drop so I can exactly work out what I'm doing. But we're 11-1 on UFC events for the year for pre-betting. I haven't won every single UFC card on live bet, but if you go on the website you can see where I track all of my live bets and pre-bets. For live betting we're up something like, off the top of my head, I think it's like 40 odd units for the year already. So live betting is easy money, guys. If you want to join, come onto Discord, the private chat. I'll tell you what to bet, I'll tell you how many units to bet. Easy money. Pre-betting's been very effective as well. Like I said, we're 11-1 on UFC events for pre-bets. So please check out the website prommmabetting.com. Subscription packages are on there. Any questions, shoot me an email. Give me a follow on Twitter at prommmabetting, and please hit the subscribe button for this YouTube channel. So I'll be back next week, guys, to talk about the card we've got. Can't remember where it is, but we've got Cerrone Al Iaquinta. And I've not started tape on it. I'm going to be starting tape on it tomorrow, but looking at it, looks like another really solid card for betting. So make sure you tune in for that. And good luck everyone for this weekend.